What about set-top box data and its role in measurement?
Yeah, we're probably not the best person to ask that of. Just from the standpoint of, if you look at our network portfolio, we tend not to have smaller networks that have limited distribution and really need sort of the scale that the various set-top box providers provide. Um, the idea that we could be smarter analytically about set-top box data, that's great. The idea that maybe set-top box data can fill in some measurement holes that exist, like VOD, is really, really important. But and also potentially, one thing that really interests us, and it gets back to some of our upfront offerings, is um, eventually the industry is going to recognize that age-sex demographics do a poor job of reflecting a client's marketing target, and then we're going to need to quickly transition to doing business off of client marketing targets. And the reality is, it may be that set-top box data integrated with shopper data, or integrated with credit card data, or integrated with Polk auto data might be a better solution than Nielsen, strictly because that's when you really need mass, because you may want to be able to analyze a product with 2% penetration. And doing that off of the 20,000 sample is challenging. Doing it off a couple of million set-top box sample may be okay. So I almost consider myself to be a bit of a novice. I think we're going to get smart really quickly because we need to deal with the VOD issue immediately. But then I think longer term, we need to be more open to it. And assuming that between the work Nielsen's doing or Bruce Gerlich at RedTrack is brilliant, trust his ability to sort of take that and turn it into real audience data.
I've heard many people talk about going into segmentation away from age and gender. And looking at it just objectively, it sounds like a great idea, but I wonder how that would be scaled or standardized,
Yeah.
since every advertiser has different. Do you think there's some kind of solution for that?
Yeah, well, that's what you've actually hit on is, I think, one of the biggest problems, right? Because if you think about going into, like what we're doing now, going into the upfront, one of the big steps on that is being able to count the market and know, our relative GRP supply relative to our competition. So now we know that, I think if we looked at things, we'd see 80% of our business is either adults 18 to 49 or adults 25 to 54. So counting the market on those demographics is something we could do to drive our sales upfront planning process. When you're dealing with thousands of different advertisers with thousands, each one with their own unique target, it obviously complicates that. I don't know how we actually would ever count the market that way. But I think our view is that we have to get this way. We have to be able to transition into a world where we're doing a better job of reflecting the way we manage inventory relative to the people an advertiser really cares about. And if you live in New York and you don't own a car and you have no intent to own a car in the next 3 years, you're of no value to Toyota. I don't drink diet soft drinks, so I'm of no value to Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi. And we're blessed with some really good data sets. Whether it's Nielsen Catalina or it's the RenTrack data or it's the Kantar data. And, I think we just got to start slow and figure this out. And figure this out both from a yield optimization perspective, a client value perspective. We're launching a product that we actually talked about in the press a couple of weeks ago called Targeting Now. And what Targeting Now attempts to do for TBS and TNT is take some instances where we might sell in broad rotation and let a client's marketing target break apart that rotation, find the programs within the rotation that do well against the client's marketing target. So it's, it's something we're hoping to get some advertisers involved in the upfront. There's a litany of data issues that we need to deal with, like how do we estimate at a program level. But we have to get there. I actually wrote an article that was published about a year ago where the title of the article was "My Wife and My Daughter Are Not the Same." I happen to have a wife and a daughter who are both in the women 25 to 54 demographic. I won't show my wife this tape, by the way. I don't think she'd want me to acknowledge that she's in that demographic. But how could you compare a mom who's raised 3 kids with my daughter who's an emerging household in Chicago with such different purchase behaviors? It might have worked in 1965 when the U.S. population was more homogeneous, when media was more homogeneous and less fragmented, clients' targets. I'm sure if we go back then, we'd find some brands who had 50% penetration within their category. Now that doesn't exist. So we have to get there as an industry. I think from a TV perspective, we're leaving TV ROI on the table by not moving to transacting against the people. It makes sense. You reach more of the people who are in market for a car, you're going to have a higher ROI than if you spend that same money and reach fewer people.